We all hear about how AI is going to revolutionize business, right? But making it reliable enough for the really critical stuff, well, that's a massive challenge. So today, we're going to dig into a new blueprint for AI, one that brings some much-needed structure and safety to automation. And we'll see it in action, solving one of the biggest headaches in any finance department, processing invoices. Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to start with what I like to call the automation paradox. See, on one hand, the potential for AI, especially in finance, is just staggering. But on the other, there's this fundamental problem that's really holding it back. I mean, the promise is huge. Just look at this number. We're talking about speeding up a company's financial close by 30 to 50% just by automating things like invoicing. That's not just an improvement, that's a total game changer for any finance team out there. Which, of course, brings us to the big question. If the payoff is so massive, why is it so incredibly hard to trust an AI with something as sensitive as a company's money? Well, it all boils down to risk, reliability, and, a lack of predictable control. It turns out the solution isn't just about building a smarter AI model. It's a completely different way of thinking about how we even give instructions to an AI in the first place. It's a whole new blueprint, and it's all centered around this idea called an AI skill. Okay, think about it like this. What if, instead of giving an AI some vague goal, you could hand it a perfect step-by-step recipe? A recipe that has every single piece of knowledge it needs to do a complex job flawlessly, every single time. That right there is the core idea of an AI skill. So, step one, you start with a super clear intent. You're not just telling the AI what to do, but also spelling out exactly when it should kick in. That precision, that trigger, is the very first step toward creating automation you can actually predict. Then, you lay out the exact procedure. This is the real heart of the recipe, a step-by-step playbook for the AI. And what's really critical here is that you also include anti-patterns, clear instructions on what not to do. It's about preventing those common mistakes before they can even happen. And maybe most important of all, you build the rules and the guardrails right into the skill itself. This is huge. We're talking about governance by design. Safety and compliance aren't an afterthought you tack on later. They're a core part of the instructions from the very beginning. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's make this concept real. We're going to take apart an AI skill that's designed for a very common but very tricky task, intelligently pulling data from invoices. First up, you've got the intent declaration, and the key here is being incredibly specific. The mission isn't just read a document. No, it's to extract critical data, vendor details, PO numbers, line items from raw files. And the trigger is just as precise. It only fires up when a new document lands in the accounts payable queue. It's the what and the when, totally locked down. Next up is the procedural knowledge. This is the how-to guide. It's a very clear sequence. First, check the file format, then use document processing tools to read it. After that, map everything to a standard format, and finally, double-check the vendor in the main system. But it also spells out what not to do, like, do not just make up illegible text. If the AI's confidence on the total amount is below 95%, the whole process just stops. Absolutely no guessing allowed. Okay, now this next part is where things get really smart. We're talking about validators. These aren't just suggestions, they are automated code-based checks. Think of them like an automated quality control inspector. For instance, a script could check that the file is a readable PDF before anything starts. And another script could confirm that the vendor name and total are actually present before passing the data along. The rules are enforced automatically. And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, continuation paths. This simply tells the AI where to go next. If everything worked perfectly, great, it passes the data on to the next skill in the chain. But if it fails, or if its confidence is low, it knows exactly what to do. Immediately send the problem to a human for review. There's no ambiguity, no getting stuck. So here's the really crucial point. These skills, they're not designed to work alone. They're actually building blocks designed from the ground up to connect and form a much larger, much more intelligent system. Because of those continuation paths we just talked about, these skills link together just like Legos. The output from our invoice extraction skill becomes the direct input for the invoice to PO reconciliation skill. And that one can then trigger the next one, and so on. You're basically composing a reliable end-to-end business process, one trusted skill at a time. And when you put two of these skills side by side, you can really see how this modular system works. The extraction skill owned by the AP team has one job: structure the data. Its key rule is to stop if confidence is below 95%. Then it hands off to the reconciliation skill, which is owned by finance ops. It has a totally different goal: match the invoice to a purchase order. And it has its own unique rules, like stopping if the price is off by more than 5%. Plus, and this is critical for compliance, it has a SOX rule that any invoice over $50,000 must get a second look from a human, no matter how perfect the match is. They're separate, but they're designed to work together perfectly. All right, let's zoom out a bit and look at the big idea here, because this approach builds a completely new foundation for enterprise AI. It's one where governance isn't just some feature, it's the very core of the architecture. So this superstructured enterprise-grade package, it's got a name: an Atomic Knowledge Unit, or AKU for short. It's this self-contained bundle that wraps up everything an agent needs to do one single thing, safely and correctly inside a business. And look, AKUs are here to solve a massive, and honestly, kind of terrifying problem. A huge study found that only about 14.5% of AI agent instructions out there in the wild have any security or governance rules in them. AKUs are designed to make that number 100%. What this structure does is create something called a governance gradient. Basically, the level of freedom an AI gets is directly tied to how many of those automated checks, those validators, are in place. If a skill has tons of validators, it can run completely on its own. If it has very few, it stays in a human-in-the-loop mode. You have to earn autonomy through provable safety. So what you get here are two powerful layers of safety. First, security is literally baked into the design of every single skill. And second, all of the agents and all their skills are managed from one central control plane, giving you that enterprise-wide visibility and governance you need. So, what's the big takeaway from this whole new blueprint for AI? Where is all of this really heading? It really boils down to this powerful idea. The winners in the age of AI, they won't just be the ones with the smartest model. They will be the organizations that are the best at structuring their own unique knowledge in a way that AI agents can use safely and reliably. And that leaves us with one final and I think really important question to ask yourself. Right now, is your organization's internal know-how a disorganized liability that's hard for an AI to use? Or is it a structured, governable asset ready to power the next wave of automation? Because it seems like structuring our own intelligence is the first real step to unlocking AI's true potential.